past. I don't want to go to the future and find out what happens to white people, because we're going to pay hard for this shit. You got to know that. We're not going to just fall from number 1 to 2. They're going to hold us down and fuck us in the ass forever. And we totally deserve it. But for now,
So, Louis C.K. is right. White people, we are going to get our just dessert. Do you know by the year 2050, white people will be a minority? We will be a minority for the first time since the founding of the United States. And you have to really be an idiot not to realize all the things that we've seen with Trump and all the things that we've seen with the QAnon people and the storming of the Capitol and the racist attacks, and recently this man that went in and shot up this Asian massage parlors, and primarily most of your white mass shooters and your so-called Christian, your evangelicals that are so against any way of allowing minorities to vote or to benefit from social programs or affirmative action. One of the things that white people realize, and I can say this because I'm white, is that our domination in the United States, it's on the out. Cancel culture has become a social weapon. The internet is a weapon. It allows people to share ideas and organize like never before. Just imagine if they would have had the internet during the civil rights movement. How more effective people like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X could have been. And what we're seeing is a fear. That's where Make America Great comes from. What people want to do is they want to go back to this non-existent fairy tale, the good old days. And all that means is they want to go back to when white people were dominant. White people, we realize that we're losing our grip on power. And I think, it all started when Obama became president. For the first time, a black man was president. And that's the most powerful seat in this country. And now you have Kamala Harris. That's why so many white people hate her, because she's the first woman vice president, but she's also of something other than white. And, I think that's why Trump was so with the coronavirus, why he always had to call it the Kung flu.
Without question, has more names than any disease in history. I can name Kung flu. I can name 19 different versions.
Or Wuhan, and blame it on China, and why we're seeing all these attacks on Asian people. Do you know that Asian people are they are the number 1 fastest growing demographic in the United States? White people are having less children, whereas Asians and Hispanics and black people are having more kids. And by the year 2050, white people are going to be a minority. Just imagine, I would like for white people to think for a minute and imagine, for example, what happened to Emmett Till. This boy, 14 years old from Chicago, sitting down to Mississippi to visit family, whistled at a white woman, which later turned out to be a lie. She totally lied about that. And these white men had the power to be able to go to his family's house, take him, torture and murder him, get off, sure, they went to a trial with a bunch of their peers, which were a bunch of white people acting as the jurors. And of course, they got off. And then couple months later, sold their story where they totally confessed in Look magazine to what they did. And there was no consequences. Where white people could just terrorize black people. We could just, go to Tulsa and burn down Black Wall Street. We could take people from their homes, from jail cells, and lynch them and have like a party and bring picnic baskets and make a day of it and dress in your Sunday best to watch a human being be murdered, be tortured to death and then murdered. And imagine the fear that went through black people's minds, fearful that it could happen to them at any moment. And then the Chinese, the Asian people, when we were building the railroad, how we would send them in and blow them up.
Estimated about 1,200 Chinese died while building the Central Pacific. Harsh weather and dangerous work conditions took their toll. To blast through the granite, black powder, nitroglycerin, and dynamite were used and set off by hand. While the Chinese came to be appreciated by their employers, the public at large did not want to acknowledge their achievements.
History have rendered them almost invisible. The reason that the Chinese were not given credit is you have to go back to the social-political environment at the time. The Chinese, at the time, the presence of the Chinese in the West were resented, and actually there was a movement all that time, even during the building of the railroad. At that period, the Chinese were considered undesirable.
To build the railroad. And we treated the Asian people no different than we treated the black people. No better, no worse. Look at World War II. We took Japanese American citizens and put them in pretty much concentration camps. The Native Americans, we all know the genocide of the Native American people. I always think that it's funny. Everybody always knows about the Holocaust with the Jews, but nobody ever talks about the Holocaust with the Native Americans in the Americas. Sure, 6 million Jews were killed, but I've read estimates that over 100 million indigenous people were mass slaughtered during Manifest Destiny when the United States was expanding her borders from the East Coast to the West Coast. We made treaties and broke them. We used biological warfare to stomp out the Native Americans. We just slaughtered them. We put them on pretty much camps. We turned Oklahoma into camps. We gave them the worst. You know, I was in New Mexico last year, and you go out there, and the Native Americans live in pretty much the worst land, just deserts. There's nothing out there. It's just rocks and scrub grass. And we gave them the most poisoned land and said, here you go. There you go. There's your home. When this whole country used to belong to them, and we just stole it from them. And I think that's why you see white people so fearful. You know, that's why the majority of your, you know, mass shooters are white, because it's all about fear. You know, we're so afraid of losing what we think belongs to us. And we believe that the United States is us, is ours. We built it, and we're going to lose it because we're going to be a minority here in another 30 years. So we better do everything that we can to hang on to power. If you go back and you look at the 1980s, during a time when the crack epidemic was running through the United States, you know, white people, white leaders passed laws that made first offenses of crack possession pretty much a life sentence. And we had no mercy. You know, when black people were struggling with this, you know, drug addiction, this epidemic that was going through their communities and destroying them, white people just stood back and laughed. And, you know, we put them in prison. We ruined lives. Imagine being a black person back in the 80s with dreams and looking forward to a future, and getting caught up or having dirty police that plant drugs on you, and your whole life is ruined. You can't get a good job. And that's what causes you to end up, you know, all the money is taken from your school because white flight and white private schools. You know, we do that to get away. We segregate ourselves purposely from the black people, and then we don't fund their schools, and then they don't have enough to be able to do the things, and then they end up dropping out, and then their parents don't make enough money. And think about all of the lives that white people have destroyed. We have massacred, you know, uncounted multitudes of people. You know, lives ruined, you know, dreams crushed, families destroyed because of our fear and our desire to hold on to power. You know, we painted young black men as super predators.
They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. No conscience, no empathy. We can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we have to bring them to heel.
And did all we could to, you know, if we no longer had plantations to hold you down on, then prisons were going to become our new plantations. And that's where we want to keep you. We're going to keep you in the ghettos, and we're going to keep you in the prisons. And we're going to, you know, use you as slave labor in the prisons to make money off of you. And that's what the private prison system has done. All a private prison is a modern day plantation. And then now, though, as we enter 2021, you know, we've gone through the opioid epidemic, and for the first time, white people started seeing their own children gripped by addiction and dying by literally the thousands. And it changed. Whereas before, if you were a black person and you got caught with a rock of crack, you're 20 years to life. But if you're a white kid and you get caught with a bunch of Oxycontin, then you're got an addiction and you need help. And, you know, we did everything we could, rehab and, you know, lighter sentences. Instead of sentencing people, sentencing them to rehab instead of sentencing them to prison. You know, when it comes to our own, we always protect our own. But when it comes to anybody else, we destroy you because we want to hold you down. Because we know that we're losing and we're going to lose. And by 2050, we're going to be the minority. And I think that inside it's guilt. It's our guilt and fear because we know what we've done, and we know how we changed the game and how we rigged the system. And we know that justice isn't blind. And we're afraid because we know that retribution is coming. And what are we going to do? You know, me, by the time 2050 rolls around, I'll be in my 80s. I'll probably be long gone. But what's going to happen to the generation behind me, the millennials, you know, when they're the whites, when they're no longer the majority? I can only hope and pray that in that time between now and then, in the next 30 years, white people and Hispanic people and Asian people and indigenous people become more mixed so they can become one people. Because I think if we stay as segregated as we are now, I think when the people of color, it's their turn to rule, are they going to be as ruthless to us as we were to them? I hope not. I hope maybe they can learn from the mistakes that the white man has made, and maybe they'll have more empathy for us, more pity, and not seek revenge, even though they probably are owed revenge. And this older generation, this boomer generation, this generation of the 50s, it'll be gone in another 10 years or so. And I'm hoping the new generations that are coming up will be more inclusive instead of so exclusive. But this is what the white man fears. This is our greatest fear when we lose our power, and it's coming. It's coming. You know, we deserve pretty much all the hell that you could give us. But I don't know if that'll ever make us one people or if that will just always hold us down. We have to become colorblind. We have to get rid of sexism and racism, and we have to get rid of religion. Religion is one of the biggest things that destroys us because it segregates us. It creates this us versus them culture, and you're going to hell and I'm going to heaven, and the Bible says that, you know, you need to submit, you know, women need to submit, African American people need to submit. You know, the Southern leaders during the Civil War used the Bible to say that God promoted slavery. So I think that if we're ever going to become a united people, we need to get past that. You know, sure, the boomers are going to die out and that generation is going to be gone, the KKK and all that, but there's this other generation coming up that's scared. And these are the mass shooters. These are the guys like Dylan Roof and like this Asian shooter. And, you know, if they're not going to be able to breed you out, then they'll just kill you. So I just hope, you know, this is my wish to the future generations that may see this video someday in the future. And when you're in power, people of color, look at the white man with pity and know that no one's perfect and we made our mistakes. But do with us what you wish, because it'll be you that has the power. And there's this old saying that you can tell the greatness of a society how they treat the less of them. And so far, the United States has not been too great of a society, because those who are less in our society, we've treated pretty bad. But maybe we'll get past that, and maybe we'll become a great society, and we'll treat those of us who are on the bottom rung a little bit better and help them climb up. But who knows? This is David, Zoe Zizzles. Make sure you like and subscribe. Bye.